Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our Nitya legal monologue on Union Budget 2021. We'll be discussing the indirect tax proposals. So, to be very candid, we were not planning for this webinar, but when we started going through the changes, we found that there are many. Yesterday afternoon only we decided that we should have a webinar on this. So, So this is how the finance minister started her budget speech. A king or ruler is the one who creates and acquires wealth, protects and distributes it for common good. So this was a saying she took from Thirukural, which is a famous Tamil sacred books. So we all have been through this turmoil of COVID-19, and as the saying goes, extraordinary situations warrant extraordinary responses, and this holds true for budget also. So to sum up, a very promising budget, a very futuristic budget. Government is likely to do a lot of spending. A lot of measures have been taken to encourage companies to make investment and to overall increase the economic activity in the country. If I have to sum up the tax proposals, there's encouragement for domestic value addition, automation of tax processes, steps to reduce tax litigations. So these are the highlights of the budget. So the government has changed customs duty on many products. We'll not be discussing the rate changes in today's webinar because it depends from company to company. But again, the government's thrust is towards Atmanirbhar Bharat so that import of products become expensive and more finished products and even intermediate products are manufactured in the country. Another major change is that the government has brought time frame for these customs exemptions. The government has also promised that they will undertake a comprehensive review of some 400 odd customs duty exemptions in the coming year. So which one are still relevant and which have outlived their utility. Substantive changes in GST, customs and CST laws, and similarly there are procedural changes in GST and customs laws which we'll be discussing. So to start with GST, so the finance minister started her speech that as the chairman of GST Council, she will take every possible measure to smoothen GST and remove anomalies like inverted GST rates. So we all have been through GST in last 3.5 years, and there are a lot of legal interpretative issues. There are a lot of procedural compliance issues, and GST has become more and more litigative and burdensome with each passing day. So let's hope that the finance minister actually implements her words and goes on to thrash out all these legal bottlenecks in GST regime, make compliance regime simpler. Secondly, whatever changes we'll be discussing, one point we want to highlight is that all changes stand approved by GST Council in their earlier meetings. So don't be under the impression that how the government, central government alone has proposed changes in GST and this may have to go to GST Council again. No. So the only step which is left for these changes is to alignment of all central and state governments and to decide a common date when these changes will be implemented, like the earlier amendments also of the GST which were in the CGST Act, etc. All the governments took few months to implement it. So yes, we can expect say around 6 months time frame for these to become law in the force, but yes, these have the approval of GST Council. Coming to the changes, transactions between person other than individual and its members for a consideration, it has is been deemed as supply. So this is typically relevant for associations like clubs, cooperative societies, etc., which provide services to their members. Some of you may be aware that Supreme Court, in case of Calcutta Club, they held that there cannot be any element of service because of the concept of mutuality. So there was a legal bottleneck in the law, which has been corrected. Important to note that this is a retrospective amendment from July 2017. Uh, on similar lines, there was a Schedule 2 entry where supply of goods by these associations, etc., was treated as good. So this has been done away with. No impact of this. Second, very major and we'll say a regressive amendment is that presently, if an exporter is making export of goods and services, he has two options. One option is that he can charge GST on exports and claim refund of that. Secondly, is that he make exports without payment of GST under LUT, and whatever goods and services have been used for making exports, he claims refund of that. So from a compliance perspective, output stage refund is much easier because whatever is the export price of the products, you are charging GST on that. But the change which has been proposed is that output stage refund will be available only in exceptional cases. As a matter of right, a taxpayer will be entitled for input stage refund only, and the government will notify goods, services, or exporters who will be entitled for output stage refund. So, in our view, this change was not at all warranted. The companies and associations should represent to the government to withdraw this amendment. On any given point of time, output stage refund is simpler, it is faster. The companies get refund even in 1 month's time. There is no input output correlation which needs to be done. And if the exporters need to go through output stage refund, it will lead all sorts of disputes and harassment with the authorities. The next change is that till now, zero rated supply under GST law was for supply to SEZ units. Now they have added a qualification that those supplies should be for authorized operations. In our view, this is a cosmetic change only because even from a SEZ law and GST rules perspective, this benefit was only available for authorized operations. So we do not see any impact of this change. The next, again, a significant change and in line with how the government has been working on this ITC. So Section 16 of the CGST Act contains conditions for availing ITC. So another condition has been added, which is furnishing of invoices and debit notes by supplier in GSTR1. So now this has been made as a condition to avail ITC. So if your supplier has not furnished invoices in GSTR1, in other words, if it is not appearing in your GSTR2A, you will not be entitled for ITC. So it means the taxpayers need to go for 100% reconciliation. The concept is very similar to 26AS under income tax now. Rule 36(4), which till 2020 used to allow a buffer of 10%, and from January 2021 allowing buffer of 5%, that becomes redundant. So no buffer at all is being allowed to you now. And in our view, this condition is contrary to the other condition of payment of tax by the supplier, because if let's presume that the condition of payment of tax is valid, then the payment of tax by the supplier is the last step. It means he has filed 3B. Then why the government is insisting for furnishing of GSTR1 by him? But yes, it's a significant change which presupposes taxpayers to do reconciliation on a monthly basis. Otherwise, ITC will not be available. This also proves that prior to this amendment, the reflection of credit under in GSTR 2A was not a substantive requirement, and on that basis, ITC cannot be denied. Another positive change is that GST audit has been done away with. So now the taxpayers who were required to get this GSTR 9C from the chartered or cost accountant need not do that. So the only requirement which has been put is that annual return GSTR 9 along with a self-certified reconciliation statement has to be furnished. A very positive change. We have been advocating since beginning that there was absolutely no need for getting GST audit done. So this reduces the compliance burden of the taxpayer, but yes, at the cost of reducing work for the professionals as well. Few things relating to this. One is that the year from which it will apply. So as far as financial year 2019-20 is concerned, its last date is February 2021. For that, you continue to be required to get the GST audit done. There's no exemption for that because this will become a law when this change will be notified. But yes, as far as financial year 2020-21 is concerned, whose date of GST audit will be 31st December 2021, in all likelihood, the government will be notifying this amendment prior to that. So we can safely assume for financial year 2020-21, GST audit is not needed. I reiterate that GST audit for financial year 19-20 is needed, whose last date is February 28, 2021 as of now. Another important point to note is that yes, they have done with the GST audit, but annual return in GSTR 9 continues. So the government is empowered that particular taxpayers, maybe on threshold, etc., they will exempt them from the purview of annual return as well. But yes, the taxpayers to whom annual return applies, the government has put an enabling power that they can also require them to file a self-certified reconciliation statement between GST returns and the financial statements. But yes, from a hygiene perspective, also it's recommended that mid-size or at least large-size corporates on an annual basis, either internally or through external service providers, they get a health check done whether everything is in order or not, including furnishing or reviewing of these reconciliation statements. Moving ahead, this issue has been controversial that whether interest on GST liability has to be paid on net basis or gross basis. So the government notified this amendment prospectively. Now it has been made effective retrospectively from July 2017. Scope of provisional attachment has been widened. It's a regressive provision per se because the provision itself is very unclear. It does not even clearly require communication of provisional attachment order to the taxpayer. Further, the worst part is that the scope of provisional attachment has been widened significantly. So even in the assessment cases, wherever the taxpayer is undergoing assessment, scrutiny, etc., if the proper officer feels that provisional attachment has to be done, it can be undertaken. We were expecting that this provision will be simplified and the scope will be narrowed down, but the government has widened the scope. So this provision has been challenged before courts in many cases. Now with the scope getting widened, the disputes on this provision and harassment of taxpayers is likely to increase. Under GST law, we have two provisions, one relating to seizure and another relating to confiscation. These have been delinked. Another change which has been done is that if against a taxpayer the proceedings have been concluded, that does not automatically lead to conclusion of proceedings against co-notices like a transporter, etc. In all these section 129 detention cases, 25% penalty needs to be paid as a pre-deposit. Coming to the customs changes, a new levy has been introduced, which is Agri Infrastructure and Development Cess. So this will apply on notified imported and excisable goods. So the government has reduced BCD on most of these goods and imposed this cess. But yes, it's a smart way from the government's perspective, that because if the tax was collected in the form of basic custom duty, they would have to share the amount with the states as well. But which says the entire kitty goes to central government only. Important points to note is that it is levied on value. So whatever rate of cess is applied, it will be on the basic value. It will not apply on BCD. So the computation will be BCD plus cess. Social welfare surcharge will apply on sum of both BCD and cess, and IGST will apply on sum of all these three. But yes, whenever the government introduce these new cesses, etc., it makes tax structure complicated only. Another important change, the government has brought sunset clause for all conditional exemptions. So this will be 31st March from 2 years of issuance. So whatever existing conditional exemptions are there prior to the enactment, so the date will be 31st March 2024. But in future, it will be, say, for example, some notification is issued on 1st January 2022. So the date will be 2 years from the end of the financial year from the issuance, which will become March 2024. So seems a welcome move from the government's perspective, so that on a timely basis, they can review as to whether certain exemptions are needed or not. One thing which is not clear is that why they have brought it for conditional exemptions only. The timely review is required even for unconditional exemptions. But yes, from a taxpayer's perspective, one important point they need to note is that they need to track all these exemption notifications, when they have been issued, when 2 years are expiring, etc. Because if a taxpayer has significant import content and these exemptions are withdrawn, it will have significant bearing on their business. IGCR rules, which are also called custom concessional rules, end use based rules, they have been amended. Some favorable changes: job work or 100% outsourcing has been permitted. If you have purchased capital goods under IGCR rules and used it for specified purpose, subsequently you can clear it on payment of differential duty based on depreciated value. One change relating to filing of bill of entry. So the law has been amended that bill of entry needs to be filed in advance, so a day prior to arrival of conveyance. Section 149 of the Customs Act, it deals with the amendment of documents. So the law has been amended that this amendment can be done electronically as well. Moving ahead, another step towards Digital India, Common Customs electronic portal on same lines as GST portal has been introduced. So the purpose is registration, filing of documents, payment of duty, even service of summons, orders, etc. can be done on this portal. So presently, IceGate is used by taxpayers for a lot of their import-export transactions. So it is likely that that itself may be notified as a customs electronic portal. But yes, the only point which we want to highlight is that when this GST portal came, they had a lot of issues. Just from a technology point of view, there were many glitches. Thousands of cases went to the courts on transitional credits, etc. So let's hope that government carries its experience and ensure that there are no glitches on this portal when it is being launched. Another welcome move that the government has put a time frame for closure of investigations, audits, etc. So the time limit is 2 years. So whenever an audit, search, seizure, summons, inquiry, investigations is being done, within 2 years, it has to be closed. One important point, a couple of points which are important to note. So it will not apply to any investigations which have been initiated prior to enactment of uh, Finance Act. The second point which needs to be noted is that this is only time limit for completion of inquiry or investigation. As far as time limit under Section 28 of the Customs Act for issuance of show cause notice, which is 2 year or 5 year, that stands as it is. So couple of changes relating to cross linkage of customs law and other laws like GST, etc. So confiscation of goods will be possible where goods have entered for exportation under long claim of remission, refund, etc. So these remission, refund are not confined only to customs law, under any other laws also. Another provision which will be surely subject to legal scrutiny is that if a taxpayer has fraudulently taken and utilized ITC, use such ITC for payment of GST on export goods, that will also be treated as an offense under customs law, and penalty of 5 times the refund amount can be imposed. So, in our view, this provision is legally incorrect. Firstly, it has nothing to do this offense. This is an offense under GST law. This has nothing to do with the customs law. Therefore, how customs law can penalize taxpayer for that? But yes, the government is making these fraudulent ITC stringent more and more, more and more stringent, and seems to be going overboard on this. Coming to one important CST change, that Form C benefit will not be available for purchase of petroleum products for generation or distribution of electricity, telecommunication network, and mining. So this was a legal lacuna which existed, that even a taxpayer who is making goods subject to GST, which are not subject to CST or VAT, even he could have procured, say, diesel, etc., for generation of electricity. So now this benefit will only be restricted to goods which are subject to CST or VAT. But yes, this change is prospective only. So there have been many high court rulings where this benefit was clearly allowed. So for past, this amendment clearly shows that those rulings were correct. But yes, once finance bill is enacted, then this benefit will no longer be available. So the last slide from our side is that there were few misses in the budget also. So to start with, there's no clarity on constitution of GST 80. We can surely say that this is a matter of GST Council, but as GST disputes are going above Commissioner Appeals level, there is a significant lacuna in the form of absence of GST 80. So there was no roadmap on that. There was a talk of bringing about a customs amnesty schemes like Sabka Vishwas legacy dispute resolution scheme, which came a couple of years back for excise and service tax cases. The government could have brought that. It would have brought a further end to, or an opportunity for taxpayers to end their customs dispute. There was news around that. It hasn't come. Even though this is an issue relating to both Ministry of Commerce as well as Ministry of Finance, but again, as far as exporters was concerned, there was no clarity about RoDTEP scheme rates. It is still 1 month past, so the government has promised that from 1st January 2021, RoDTEP will be available for export goods, but neither the legislative framework nor rates have been announced till now. Fate of SEIS for 1920-21 hangs. There's absolutely no clarity on that. And lastly, the government has taken significant steps yesterday in automation of ITAT, which is Income Tax Appellate Tribunal, both in terms of their overall functioning as well as conducting virtual hearings in many cases. So a similar step could have been replicated for SISTAT as well. Thank you everyone for joining in such large number. With this, we come to end of today's session.